Never buy a motorcycle that other people like. What's the best motorcycle for you? Let's get into it. Hello, welcome to RevelatorAlf. I hope you're all well. This is the motorcycle channel for test rides, tips and fixes, and all the latest news and discussion points. If you like what I do here, don't forget to like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notifications bell for all future videos and news. And also don't forget to check out the website, RevelatorAlf.com, for all biking news and specifications. Okay, so let's get into this. So here's a little story that I heard a week or so ago, and I was kind of taken aback, but at the same time I wasn't really surprised. So I was told of a chap who shall remain nameless, and the location shall remain nameless as well. However, I'm sure this is replicated in many other areas, that they bought a motorcycle because their friends liked riding those kinds of bikes. They've never ridden those kinds of bikes. They didn't really have a feeling either way about that bike, and also this chap wasn't even keen on that bike or that type of bike. However, all his friends were riding this kind of bike, so he thought, hey, I better get one myself, because if I want to ride with my friends, yeah, I definitely want to have one of those. And it was the worst decision he ever made. He couldn't get on with it. It was really uncomfortable. He didn't like the way it rode. He didn't like it in the bends. You know, everything about this bike he just didn't like. So whose fault was it for buying this bike? Well, unfortunately, it's his own fault, because he went with what his friends liked and not what he liked. So riding a motorcycle or driving a car, whatever it is, yes, you can get on a motorcycle and drive a car, and you know, you can be perfectly happy. But when you're talking about your motorcycle, your personal ride, it is a personal thing. It is a very subjective thing. So what might be good for some people may not be good for others. Now, this doesn't have to just apply to sports bikes, of course. It can apply to anybody who's on an adventure bike, on a dirt bike, on a commuter bike, on a Harley Davidson. How often do we come across people whose friends get into riding Harley Davidsons, and guess what? They would ride another branded bike, but because they can't go on the hog rides, for example, they want to change their bike up, which is a perfectly great bike, for a Harley Davidson, which might in fact be a lesser bike. But because they want to ride with their friends, they think, oh yeah, I'll buy a Harley Davidson. But then they come to realize, you know what, I was much happier on the other bike. So from a social point of view, it's a great idea, but from a personal riding point of view, it might not be a great idea. Fundamentally, I suppose you've got to decide, what's the purpose of you buying this bike? Is it to be part of the crew, part of the club, part of the gang, or whatever it is, the friendship circle? Is it to join in, to fit in? If that's your case, then great, there's no issues with that at all. But if that isn't the reason, you're buying a motorcycle because you want to enjoy the ride, then you've got to buy it for the right reasons, and you've got to choose the right motorcycle for the right reasons as well. There's no point in buying a motorcycle that others like but you don't like. There's no point in buying a motorcycle that others think is fantastic but you feel really uncomfortable on. The number one person that you need to please on a motorcycle is yourself, if you're the rider. If you look back at a previous video when I was talking about buying motorcycles for yourself and your partner, if you're going long distance riding, for example, then yes, both of you need to be really happy on that motorcycle. But especially if you're just riding by yourself, or predominantly by yourself, the number one person that you've got to please is yourself. You've got to be happy with the way that bike handles, the way it looks, the way it sounds, all these factors. This is a purely individual thing. It's down to your taste and your taste alone. Now, I get it. It's very tempting to think, well, okay, I'm just going to buy this sports bike, or I'm going to buy this touring bike, I'm going to buy whatever, this ADV, because all my friends are riding them now, and I don't want to be left out. I don't want to stand out from the crowd. I just want to do what they're doing, and I get it completely. And you might have great fun, and it might be the best decision ever. But make sure that the bike that you're buying to be part of this group is really what you're after, is really what you're looking for. Now, I have to backtrack a little bit here, because it really depends how long you intend to ride with this group of people for, and how long you intend to own this motorcycle for. Let's just say you and your friends are planning a long distance ride. You're going on a grand tour. They've all got touring capable motorcycles, but you've got a sports bike, for example. You think, do you know what, I'm going to sell my sports bike, or I'm just going to go and buy a touring bike just for the period of this tour. Once the tour is completed, I'm going to sell the touring bike and get back to my sports bike. There's absolutely no problem in that. You're buying a bike that is going to be suitable for that riding that you're going to do. And also it matches what everybody else is riding as well. So there's no real discrepancy there. There's no real difference there. But your first love, if you want to call it that, is your sports bike. So once you get back home, hey, you're going to be on that most of the time. You may keep the touring bike for future rides, or you might just want to sell it. So in that case, being part of the group and buying a bike that may not necessarily be your first choice, but it's suitable for that short period that you're going to go on the big tour, that might be a really good decision. But in most cases, if this is a bike that you're going to be riding for the long term, then it may not be the bike that you initially want to buy. However, let's just backtrack again. Because it might be a situation where you buy a bike for the short period because, hey, you're going on a grand tour and you want a bike that's going to be suitable for it. But then when you start riding it on this long distance, on these 2 or 3, 4, 500 mile day rides, then you think, wow, this bike is fantastic. I love it. I love riding it. My wife on the back, she loves it as well. We're all having fun. It's really comfortable. And you know what? I thought I used to love the sports bikes, or the big ADV bikes, but I love this little bike now. It might be something that you grow to love. It may not be the bike that you thought that you'd have for the long term, but certainly in that scenario, you think, yeah, I like it. And you might stick with it for another 2 or 3 years, 4 years, or whatever it is. Or it might be something that you see this bike as a very short-term bike and you think, well, yeah, it's not the bike that I want as my daily ride. And it might not be suitable for your daily ride as well. Let's just say if you're a city rider, an urban rider, well, riding a big touring bike, for example, may not be what you want. Again, you might have a 1 litre sports bike, but you're only doing a 2 or 3 mile journey in the city. Do you know what? You think, it's not really suitable for what I want. So you might want to go for something else, so maybe something a lot smaller, a lot more compact for that kind of ride that you're going to do on a daily basis. But for short periods, you might think, you know what? Yeah, I'll go and have a bit of fun with this bike. But for the long term, it may not be right. So buying the bike that suits you is always going to be number one, and not buying a bike that suits what your friends like. But buying the bike that suits the situation, no matter how long or short, may be the right thing to do, even if that bike for the short period is not the bike that you can see yourself in the long term. Anyway, hope you found that useful. If you like the video, like and share, subscribe to the channel and hit that notifications bell for all future videos. And also don't forget to check out the website RevelatorAlf.com for all latest biking news and specifications. And I'll catch you again on another video coming very soon. Bye now. RevelatorAlf.